Hi everyone. My study is called Elementary Student Involvement in the IEP Meeting and IEP Team Collaboration, a case study. This is important to me because I have two children who are deafblind due to Usher syndrome. And so I've been to a lot of IEP meetings and I've seen collaboration increase as my children have become involved in their IEP meetings. So I really wanted to, there's a lot of research out there that talks about parent and student involvement in the IEP meetings. A little bit of background is that involvement is recognized as part of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. But the partnership that was envisioned by IDEA remains inconsistent with practice, which is what I've seen as well. I feel like I've been pretty successful in getting my children's needs met in the IEP meeting, but it's been a lot of work to get that accomplished. Parents often report having low satisfaction with IEP meetings because of the lack of collaborative partnership between in IEP teams. And we also have, there's research to state that having students actively participate, not just be in the same room, but actively participating in their IEP meetings helps ensure that those meetings remain student focused, which ultimately prevents conflict and increases satisfaction. There are documented benefits of that student involvement in the IEP meeting, even at a young age. In practice, however, students are often not invited to these meetings, even though they are the focus of those meetings. They're often not invited until the age of transition, in which most states require student involvement. Student involvement in the IEP helps foster a child's self-determination, which can lead to an increased individual quality of life and family quality of life. There are barriers to having students be involved. The student's role in education planning is often unclear to the rest of the IEP team, and especially when students, we talk about student involvement at the elementary age. So I decided that I really wanted to take a real close look at IEP meetings and the elementary school. So when I started to talk about doing a case study, I also decided I wanted to write this up as an autoethnography. The purpose of this autoethnographic case study is to explore student involvement in educational planning. I considered how student involvement impacted collaboration within the IEP team. The following research question guided the study. What does student involvement in educational planning look like for an elementary age student? In this case, the bounded case is my 10-year-old son's IEP team. It's a qualitative case study, like I mentioned. The data that I collected was in the form of interviews, observations. I observed his IEP meeting, as well as document review. The documents that I reviewed were documents that were referenced in those meetings. The participants were 4 adult IEP team members. One of them was my husband. The rest of the IEP team, or the rest of the participants, were adults that are part of the IEP team. I also interviewed my 10-year-old son and my 19-year-old son as well to get a broader perspective. The interviews were recorded and transcribed, and the data was analyzed using in vivo, using coding procedures. And then I collapsed these into larger themes, and the quotes were selected to illustrate those themes. So the themes that the findings fell into the following themes: collaboration, knowledge, student involvement, and student self-advocacy. In regards to collaboration, a couple of interesting things. The team members that felt that communication was strong, but the team members suggested more in-person and more frequent meetings due to the low incidence disability of deafblindness, which I thought was a really great suggestion. IEP teams are only required by law to meet once a year, but because of the uniqueness and the progressive vision loss that my son has, sometimes things change more frequently than once a year. So I think the suggestion of meeting more frequently in order to meet those unique needs of a child with deafblindness was a really good suggestion. Everyone had talked about how the family involvement in educational planning was strong, that the team was flexible and creative at meeting student individualized needs. Team problem solving was a strength. A lot of times, because of the deaf blindness, things come up during the day, and that team felt like they were able to really problem solve and be flexible to try to figure out a good solution that might work. And also the specialists, because they're itinerant teachers and not at the school very often, collaboration is more difficult for those teachers, but they felt like it was going pretty well. As far as knowledge goes, like I said, deaf blindness is a low incidence disability, so not all the team members are familiar with the needs. In particular, the general education teacher has never isn't familiar with deaf blindness, so that was something that we needed to provide her knowledge of deaf blindness and Usher syndrome specifically. The family and the student are a source of knowledge, in particular because we have an older son, a 19-year-old, who also has Usher syndrome. We have had a lot of experiences, and so we're able to bring those experiences to the IEP team. Everyone has a piece of the picture. So we know that deaf blindness is a dual sensory disability. It's not just deafness and blindness separate, it's the combined loss of those dual senses. So that becomes, that can look at different in the classroom. So somebody who's not just familiar with deafness or vision loss, but somebody who's knowledgeable about deaf blindness in particular and that impact of that dual sensory loss in the classroom. So like I said, everyone has a piece of that picture. So we have a lot of different specialists on the team, and they all bring in this piece, which makes collaboration really important and that communication between team members. The student, everyone felt that the student does know what's in his IEP, which helps him advocate. Sometimes he doesn't always advocate for himself because he doesn't want to feel different, but he does have a good knowledge about what is in his IEP and why it's there. And a teacher of the deaf is needed on the team. They bring a specific knowledge about deafness that is not on the team currently. That's something that we've been working with the district over the last year to provide. In regards to student involvement, student engagement is high in meetings. Most of the team members mentioned that for a 10-year-old, my son is very involved in these meetings and has a really good working knowledge about what those meetings are, what his he has a good relationship with his team members. He understands that they're trying to help him, and so it's been really positive. We know that involving students in IEPs can help make it easier for them in the future. My son had mentioned this as well, that he felt that there was a benefit for having him be involved in the meeting at an elementary age, because it's going to help him in middle school and high school and beyond to be able to know what's in those, what he will be needed for him in the classroom. All the participants mentioned how it's helpful for the student to attend his IEP. They also mentioned a lot of the team members have been on the team for several years. They noticed how the student involvement has increased over time, in particular the last 2 years. It's something that, because my older son wasn't very involved in his IEP meeting until the age of transition, that caused some problems. So over the last 2 years, we really tried to think about how we could make that situation be different for my younger son. The student learned about how to prepare for the meetings mostly from myself. Like I said, because of my interest in this, because of my experiences with our older son. The general education teacher has helped prepare him for his most recent meeting. And this was something that I thought was a real positive. When I went to the last IEP meeting, his general education teacher had done a whole student presentation part with my son about what was going well during the year, what he felt like were his strengths and his challenges, and so she worked on that with his help, and he presented that to the IEP team. So that's something that I have typically worked with him on. I didn't mention this to her prior to the meeting, and that's just something that she, just because she cares about making him successful and supporting him in the classroom, she felt that that was important because we had invited him to the meeting. Also, I would state that, the team members do a really good job in those meetings of making him feel really comfortable about being in those meetings, not using a lot of jargon, making it very student friendly. The student provides input to the team in meetings, like I said, and in more informally outside of the meetings. So he interacts with those specialists and his teachers and is able to articulate pretty clearly about what he needs and what's working and not working for him. And as things change, his vision loss is progressive. So it's important for him to share any changes with all the team members so that they can help him. And so he has shared those experiences. My son has indicated that the team is welcoming, friendly, and supportive. He just loves his team. So I'm really excited about writing up these findings to show all the great work that our team is doing in order to support our son. My son also stated that the involvement at a young age, he feels that it's beneficial. Like I said, that it's going to help him in the future for middle, high school, and beyond. So the last theme is about student self-advocacy. So self-advocacy is a skill that that my son is working on with his team. It's probably something that's probably the biggest challenge for him because it's that awkward age of acceptance. But we know that working on those and strengthening those self-advocacy skills really helps increase his confidence. But he doesn't always ask for help. He knows he has accommodations and modifications available to him on the IEP, but he doesn't always want to ask for those. One thing he has done in order to self-advocate and provide awareness of Usher syndrome is that he worked with one of his specialists to create a PowerPoint about deafblindness. He created 2 of them, one of them for his peers, which he presented to his classroom, and another one for the teacher. And so that was really cool to see, and I reviewed that as far as documentation goes. A couple of quotes that I really like. I feel like D is part of the team. I feel like he is kept aware of most everything that's going on. I enjoy that part of it too. Next one, I feel it is tricky with deafblindness because there's just so little information about it out there about it, which again is about that low incidence disability and the need for collaboration because of it. One of the quotes from my son is, I would say that you should probably attend your meeting instead of your parents just making your meeting and your IEP. And when you're grown up and you have to make your own IEP, then you look back at the IEP, and if you see, and you'll see things that are weird, then you don't need on your IEP. So what he's trying to say is that if you let your parents just do the whole thing without student input, it's not going to be as meaningful. Next one, I do think it's an evolving process for any student, so I anticipate that he continues to get older and progresses at school, he'll be able to become even more involved with planning and thus advocating for his needs. Last one is, I'd say for D, he sometimes still likes to say, oh no, it's fine, when he might have an idea on what might make it better. But I think he's still hesitant a little bit to say that. I think for sure he's getting much better advocating and letting us know how we can help. So some conclusions. I do feel that results from the study contribute to a broader body of research on the importance of involving students, particularly at the elementary age, in their IEP meetings. Findings of the study echo the outcomes from previous research that professionals find value in involving elementary students. Involving students helps the team stay student-focused and can improve collaboration. The previous studies have shown how difficult it can be for a team to understand the impact of that dual sensory loss, like I was talking about, and that how important collaboration and communication are and how vital it is to serve students who are deafblind because the needs are so complex. So the implications for the field for all of this is that there is value in early student involvement in the IEP. Early student involvement can benefit students in the future. Self-advocacy is an important part of preparing students for student involvement, and all team members can benefit from shared knowledge when supporting students who are deafblind. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'd love to share some more information about my study with you, and please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.